You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Codland.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number 369, the 24th of July, 2024. And of course, this is the first call we've had since the earnings call, which was yesterday.
Thankfully.
It's been a heck of a week, hasn't it, guys?
Yeah, they usually do them on a Wednesday, like right before the show.
That's right.
The second or third time they've done it the day before. And
last quarter, it was the day after, I believe. It was a Thursday.
Oh, wow.
And then today or yesterday was a Tuesday. So, yeah, kind of weird, just back and forth. Yeah. But with me, as always, we have Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Hello, Tesla Nation. Should be a fun show today.
Absolutely. With us as well, Mr. Casey Green from the Mid-Atlantic. How are you today, sir?
A lot happened.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It's been a busy week, news-wise, for sure.
Okay.
But let's kick it off with the head story this week, and Patrick's going to lead us off with earnings call Q2.
That's right. I'm going to try to jam the entire newsletter and the hour and some minute conference call into as short a time as I can. If we touch on anything and you're interested, throw a comment in the chat and we'll look at those and see if we can cover it. So Tesla's Q2 earnings report came out yesterday as we record this. Their GAAP earnings per share was 42 cents. Non-GAAP was 52 cents. The market expectations were 50 and 62 cents. So that's a big miss compared to expectations. The stock's down 12% today on the news, although it's still up 17% on the month. So it didn't give up all of the recent rally. Speaking of the stock, nothing that we say here is stock advice. So Wall Street's myopic perspective, as is often the case, they're looking at the quarterly results and they miss the forest by staring at the trees. So Tesla had record revenue, $25.5 billion this quarter. This was driven by growth in energy storage, their high regulatory credit revenue. So every time VW, Ford, GM delay their EV ramp, that's the cash register ringing for Tesla. And in Q2, that was $890 million in regulatory credits. Now, those regulatory credits are they go up and down. You can't depend on that every quarter. But the OEMs, the legacy OEMs, seem to keep finding excuses. And every time they do, that's cash in Tesla's pocket. So speaking of cash, they had $30.7 billion in cash and cash equivalents. That's an increase of $3.9 billion in just the quarter. And all while they've massively increased their FSD training capability. They've grown their supercharger network. And these are tough economic macro times. So Tesla's between two growth phases and still growing. So Tesla stock carries a premium because they have a lot of things in the pipeline. Energy storage is ramping. The semi is ramping. The Cybertruck is ramping. FSD licensing in the future. The Model Next, the Robotaxi, Optimus, and as well as all the things that they'll come up with along the way to delivering those. Tesla's non-automotive gross profit for Q2 was nearly $1 billion. So they're no longer just a car company unless you consider $1 billion pocket change. And if you do, I want to be your friend. So I'm still hoping that they come up with home products like a heat pump that smartly coordinates with your solar and Powerwall and vehicle charging loads. That would be a pretty cool product. But anyway, Q2 was not all roses. There were some things that reduced revenue as well. Interest rates are still high, so Tesla offered financing terms and reduced prices as demand levers. Vehicles are no longer at their 50% growth rate that they've had historically for so long in their history here. Model Y is currently the best-selling vehicle. It's hard to go up from being number one. But as we mentioned last time on the show, energy storage is growing. It's a high-margin business, and after a decade of slowly growing, it's finally becoming significant revenue. A car and a grid energy storage systems seem like two radically different products, but they both use batteries, and that helps.
Inverters and
Yeah, a lot of things more in common with an EV. I mean, an EV is an energy storage system that uses that energy for mobility. So having these two product lines really helps them with their economies of scale and helps bring down the price on both of these products. So the last drag that they had on their revenue was their layoffs, or as Wall Street calls it, restructuring. Depending on the job that the person had and how long they'd been at Tesla, they're given severance packages. And that can be a year's pay in some cases. And that all hit in one quarter. So from a revenue perspective, this is a one-time charge and actually should boost things going forward, that those people have left and they won't need paychecks. As sad as that sounds, it's a positive going forward. Anyway, let's keep going. There's just a few more here. They noted that material costs were lower in Q2, and that helped boost profitability. And this is a trend that I expect to see continue as EV volumes increase, not just for Tesla, but for the entire industry. Looking forward, Tesla expects vehicle production volume to increase in Q3, which they need to do if they're going to hit 2 million this year, which is, a number we've been hoping to see for a while here. 4680 growth has grown 50% compared to Q1, and their cost of goods is down on it. So that's good to hear. FSD 12.5 has 5 times the parameters of 12.4, and it merges the highway and city stacks, and 12.5 will be rolling out soon. So that's good to see that they're making advances there. And it's actually getting good to the point where I actually think, hey, this could really happen sometime soon. It's getting that good. The Robotaxi event they announced will be on 10/10. And the interesting thing was Musk said it will have a couple of other things. And then later in the call, he said, I don't want to Osborne myself, so I'm not going to talk about unannounced products on this call. So that's got my hopes up for the 10/10 event. It should be exciting. Mm-hmm. And depending on the time, maybe we can do it live here on the show. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tesla having a profitable business means that they can funnel those profits into the next wave of innovation. And if you had a startup that was trying to do Optimus and that was all they were doing, at this point, they would be spending a whole lot of money. They'd have big cash burns. And if they didn't have a lot of venture capital, they would end up going bankrupt quickly. So Tesla doesn't have that problem. They can self-fund these things. And that means that they're not, dependent on VCs who may or may not want to go the same direction that the company does. So here's some tidbits from the call, just a few. Optimus V1 will be in limited production, a couple thousand in 2025. Those are all going to be used in-house within Tesla. And then they expect V2 to go external in 2026, taking all the learnings that they have. Someone asked about Dojo, and Musk said, first, I want to say that NVIDIA GPUs are great, and they are in high demand throughout the entire industry. And because availability is unreliable, because if someone else comes in, they could end up raising their prices. They could have a customer that's higher priority. So that means that Tesla is going to double down on Dojo. And they have to, because they have to be able to design and have contracts to build those, then have guaranteed results. And at some point in the call, it wasn't clear to me whether they were talking about the future data center build out they have going, or if this is what they have now. But they were talking about 50,000 NVIDIA and 20,000 Dojo that are currently running, or soon to be running anyway. That tells you the scale of where things are now or in the near future. Here's another tidbit. Over 2/3 of U.S. sales in Q2 were to people that have never owned a Tesla before. And this came up in context of advertising. Should they be advertising? And one, they have been doing some limited advertising. And two, it sounds like the word is getting out. So that was good to hear. Another tidbit, the Giga Mexico build-out is on hold until we know who the next president of the U.S. will be and whether or not that's going to impact the tariffs between the countries. Trump has said that he will tax cars coming from Mexico. And so we will see how that plays out. And you can never trust political statements. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out. And the last tidbit I have is that some XAI folks have consulted both with FSD and with the South Texas data center design and build out. So that was an interesting, the folks that are at XAI, even though it's a different company, they're all part of the Muskoverse. And we've seen the people coming from SpaceX to help with the aluminum for the Model S way back when. So there's definitely cross-pollination between Musk companies. That was my quick rundown.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a sprint, Patrick. That was really good. You gotta be able to catch your breath after that. But what I found interesting was that Elon reiterated a couple times during the question and answer period that it's all about autonomy. It is, and he even went so far as to say if you feel that Tesla will not solve FSD in the short term, I would suggest that you diverse yourself out of Tesla stock, because we are heading in that direction. Autonomy is number one, and that's where we're going. And that was one of his most forthright statements, I think, in any earnings call, that this is the direction that he is laser focused on. How fast it will happen, he's not telling us. And of course, he's also said that he's been wildly optimistic with other timetables that he has put out there. So there is no, there's no 4 quarters from now. It's just, we are doing this, and we are basically betting the future of Tesla on it. He was talking about that autonomy's, the rewards from autonomy would dwarf what Tesla is currently taking in its automotive coffers at this time.
Right. So he mentioned that ARK Invest thinks it's a $5 trillion opportunity, and he said, I don't think they're wrong.
Yeah. So again, forward statement, but it's interesting that is it. They are pushing towards that.
He reiterated on packaging for sale, FSD and AI, and he mentioned that they were talking with people, but wouldn't say who, right?
Right, and one of the analysts I thought did something pretty clever to dig a little deeper into that. They said, if you had a deal with another OEM, would you wait until that OEM's product is ready to be shown, or would you announce it right away? And they said that depends on what our OEM partner wanted to do. Yeah. But that was an interesting. Like, would you tell us if you already had one?
We'll know in 60 years or less if they've already got it.
And the other thing is with that question as well was that Elon again stated that the OEMs out there are not fast moving. So this is something that's not going to be done and them collecting revenue from it in any short amount of time. There's going to have to be a number of iteration cycles for that OEM if they were to purchase it, to get involved with it, get hardware out, to get the specs lined up that it would work properly. All those things are going to take multiple iterations to get there. So
we also got our first confirmation on what requirements would be. They'd have to have a 360 view with cameras. Yep. I'm assuming Tesla cameras, but he didn't say that. And he did say that they will need a Tesla AI chip. So basically a hardware 4, hardware 3, hardware 5 board on board. And they would need to have the connection to the mothership. So.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. That it's not an expensive sensor suite with LiDAR and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so you would source the same cameras that Tesla's currently using, because otherwise you'd have to have some emulation mode and other things that just makes it more difficult. And then you'd have to retrain it with your specific cars, and that causes problems and delays that you don't need. But I think back to Mark's point, it's going to be a while, because look at all the NACS announcements that came out earlier this year. And I haven't seen any of them that are even testing it yet, except Kia.
Yeah.
So, and then If they're going to come out with these for model year 2025, we should be seeing them doing some testing at superchargers, and this is not even like a huge change. So
and so far, it's just Hyundai Kia.
Yeah, and so only one of the legacy automakers has got this far. So does that mean they're not going to make it in time for 2025? They're going to have to do some mid-year refresh or push it out to 2026. So yeah, now you want them to do autonomy, and it's going to be a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Another point on FSD mentioned was about the combining of the programming stacks for on-street and highway. 12.5 was given the number that that would be the version where they do combine. Elon mentioned that the highway stack is kind of getting long in the tooth. He knows that there's issues with it, and he believes that the combination of the two stacks in 12.5 will resolve a lot of that, because the highway will start to get the updates that the streets have received already. So this would, of course, also help Tesla with reducing the amount of stacks that they have to maintain. If you can get it down to a single stack, that eliminates some of the programming work in the future.
Yep. So if you have a hardware for Model Y, and you have FSD, either as a all-out purchase or a rental, you will start to see that starting to get downloaded to the vehicles. It's still running in, or they just unlocked the Hardware 3 emulation mode, but it's still running the same code as Hardware 3 right now. So he says they'll need more time to get the 500 parameters to work nicely on Hardware 3, and also the Cybertruck will be finally experiencing FSD, autopilot, all that stuff on this version as well. How long will it take? Who knows? 12.4 never made it out to the general public. The latest version of 12.4, and we'll see. And I'll hold my breath.
Yep. No. Yeah. I wouldn't hold my breath on any of it, because we have seen, as Elon has mentioned, that he is wildly optimistic on certain things. One other thing of interest, speaking of some of the Cybertruck stuff, was that based on the batteries that are being produced at Giga Texas, they've hit a run rate of 1,400 per week. So that's up a little bit from the previous high water mark of 1,300. And another piece of hardware news: Elon was asked about a Roadster update, and he said new Roadster in 2025 is where he believes it will be rolled out to production. He said that the engineering is basically done. So it sounds like there are a few different things that haven't been completed, but they've got those to cross off, and then we're looking at a next year introduction of the Roadster Gen 2.
He changed the nose at the last minute, just like the other one.
So this has got to be the longest between announce and delivery that they've ever done for any product.
Yep, used to be a tie with the Cybertruck, but
right.
but that tie was broken about a year ago.
Yeah, it was a tie with the semi too, because they were revealed. It was the one more thing at
it was
semi
one more
event.
thing for semi.
This poor Roadster. All the multi-millionaires that aren't getting their toy. I feel so bad for them.
Yeah.
And the free ones.
I'm sure you do. Another thing of interest, as Patrick mentioned, was about Gigafactory Mexico. So I am sure that the PM of that area of Monterrey is a little bit upset.
Mark's back.
Wow.
Oh, we had a little bit of a glitch.
We're back.
Hey,
Mexico's mad.
I am sure the prime minister of that area in Monterrey is a little bit upset that he's basically now waiting on a U.S. federal election to happen, and some. I guess if the job changes at the top, a new party's in place, then it's going to be what are the policies now? Because it could be wildly different, and of course that would definitely affect Mexico. The size and the scope of what that plant would be if there's going to be new tariffs in place to possibly be charged on vehicles that cross that border. Or, for all we know, there could be another parts problem, that stuff going back and forth. Who knows? With the new administration, anything could happen. And they want to be sure about things before they invest those types of dollar capital into a building that cannot be moved.
Yeah, that one confused me the most. Like, wasn't this supposed to be the South America and export hub as well? Like, in order to stop it for that, that means that you were actually planning to bring a significant amount of cars back to the States.
My thought, based on just that comment, Casey, is that, yes, I can see that. But I think that Elon and co. are looking at this little bit of a slowdown in their sales, the high interest rates. They're looking at things are not moving at the 50%, a 50% clip anymore. Yeah. And they're saying, you know what, maybe we should pull back on the reins a little bit, keep our $30 billion in the bank,
right,
and roll out for a few quarters. Or Mexico's not going anywhere. We can start up that plant at any given time, and they will welcome us with open arms. But maybe we should be looking at where we think the production and the sales of our vehicles are going in North America, and maybe a little bit more cautious about spending billions on a new plant. And of course, the other bonus is to get to see if there's going to be a new administration or if there's going to be new policies when it comes to cross-border.
I wonder if he could follow in the footsteps of the "we're not building your wall" guy. He didn't use such nice language, but not as so rudely, because Elon's a little snippety. And resume the push for hey, you said this was an export hub. Here's why continuing these plans would be good for you, regardless of who's president.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the winds of politics. The weird thing is, so under the last Trump administration, that's when this deal was put in place, right? Yeah. It's what replaced NAFTA. So I don't even. So if Trump is elected, he would want to renegotiate again.
That sounds like him.
It's certainly possible. I wouldn't say it's logical, but it's certainly something could be done in that vein, because, of course, I can see politicians being able to say, well, really, the equilibrium of trade has changed, because now we've got Chinese companies shipping into Mexico. They're putting on badges and saying they're Mexican made and being access to the North American market. That could be argued. But
they did that last administration too. Like they opened themselves up to that.
So that kind of stuff certainly could be questioned. But like Patrick's saying, I don't know if you would completely reopen the Canada-American-Mexican trade agreement just for that. Because, of course, all the countries are going to have issues with you're now reopening it again to try to get another deal, a different deal, a sweeter deal for you. Like, we want things fixed in our way, too. So it's a big kind of
balloon. That's for sure.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting, because there are certainly plenty of foreign countries that build in the U.S., and by building here, they avoid those tariffs. So
Kia is getting a factory spun up right now.
Yeah. So why is it different if they're building in Mexico or Canada? Anyway, but yeah.
And that's it's that.
Watch out, Mark. Watch out.
You're coming for me. Coming for you. I would say that certainly where I live in the province of Ontario, it's definitely been a plus for the workers here, because some of those European countries are opening up factories in Ontario because they have access to the American and Mexican markets as well as Canadian. So it works for all three countries. And I can definitely see why Mexico would have a problem of them turning off the tap for them. It's something that all three have to be benefiting from in order for it to mutually work for all of us.
Yeah, right. Brian made a good point when he went to go visit the site of Giga Mexico on the Futuraza channel. He pointed out that Mexico has more trading partners than either of their North American neighbors. So that's
right, because they're part of the Trans-Pacific deal.
Yeah.
So they've got way more partners, but of course, way more does not mean a greater
They're always
share.
profitable.
Yeah, they can be smaller amounts, right?
Oh, yes.
So, but still, we were thinking that opening Giga Mexico for Tesla made a lot of sense because it would have access to those trans-Pacific partners, as well as Latin America and South America would be a natural as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since they are currently very underserved right now.
But if that is the case, I would argue that Tesla would at least be moving more towards a construction phase than
right, or do a Giga 1 and build half the factory.
Exactly.
Unless they learn they don't want to build half the factory.
Build half, build a quarter, whatever it
Yeah.
takes to get some of those deals rolling and be profitable doing it, and have the ability to add on to the factory as they've done in Shanghai when they need to turn up the volumes.
Shanghai and Berlin. Berlin is also allowing phases. The protesters are not, but protesters. But
Yeah,
well, of course,
I bet
they've moved to double-story tree houses now, so they're tougher to move.
I bet you there were some people in Mexico saying, "What?
Right.
Mad yesterday when they heard this? What are you talking about?"
Yep, absolutely. So that was quite the earnings call. One thing I took from the earnings call as well is that it seemed to be shaved down, and it seemed to be more abruptly ended.
oh yeah,
I seem to understand that it was going to the point where they were just kind of quick with answers, quick to say no, quick to say we don't talk about deliver or new events. This is an earnings call that was mentioned a couple times, and of course that's been done before. But it just did seem that it was a little bit more abrupt on this call, and they were quicker to end it.
Yeah, Musk. It used to be pretty easy to bait him, and
Oh, yeah.
you just ask him the same question twice. The first time he'll say no, I can't talk about that. And the second time he's like, okay, here's the scoop.
it was that way.
Yeah, it was.
He seems
no longer.
He seemed in a foul mood yesterday as well. Not openly hostile like he can be sometimes on these and other.
He didn't call anybody a bonehead.
Right, but he was not enjoying his time there either. We could tell.
And I think the other execs had a little bit of a lesser role in the call than sometimes they were able to expand on things. There were a couple of interjections, but there were far less than what we've heard in previous earnings calls. So that contributed to the mood of the whole thing, I would say.
Yeah. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't what we're used to.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Wall Street didn't like it. As Patrick mentioned, they can't see the forest through the trees, but they did have some valid points on the production, the deliveries. There are things that Tesla and Tesla has been trying a number of different demand levers to push more vehicles into the market, but they're not getting as much traction as they had hoped. And
they just ran another two.
Exactly.
While raising the price of the legacy platforms. So you can get a performance Model 3 or Model X while still retaining your tax credit if you get FSD.
If you get FSD, exactly. So they've got all these demand levers that they're pulling: low interest rates, special pricing, the transfer of FSD. All this stuff is in flux, and it was not able to help them as much as they had wanted in Q2.
Yeah, Brian and I were wondering, if you do the FSD transfer, can you still get a free seat upgrade or color change?
Oh, no, because you're not paying for that.
Right.
You're not going to throw in that. No. I think it was with the purchase of FSD.
That was how they
the transfer of FSD. Yeah. Yeah. Nice try, though. Nice try.
So yeah, that was a pretty quick earnings call. I felt it was kind of blunt and to the point, and it was over
even the deck
in under just over an hour and 4 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
So With that said, we're certainly going to keep our eyes on this as it moves along. But again, Mexico not too happy. But hopefully some of that forward statements that were given, like having another vehicle available to us in the first half of 2025, would be something that could happen. So that's where I'm hoping. That's where I'm hoping that the Model 2.5 is. Somewhere in that range would be nice to see.
And we get like 3 more parties.
Exactly.
Although with no referral program, how do they choose who gets to go?
Speaking of some of the people that listen to this show, we did run a Tesla poll this week, which was when did we think the delayed Cybercab would be rescheduled, and of course Elon came right out and said it was going to be October the 10th, and that turned out to be the majority of people that voted in our poll had chose October as well. So
was 1010 the one I suggested because of the Chinese numerology?
He didn't mention that.
Oh no, he didn't. But, I mean, was that what I said? I forgot.
You talked about the Chinese
okay, cool.
The Chinese connection to the 1010.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so often not all that close in the numbers. This one was so spot on. I pulled a Patrick out of my head.
Well done. Yeah.
And let's talk about some other gigafactories outside of the earning call. Talk a little bit about Berlin. The prime minister of the region that Giga Berlin sits in, he actually publicly announced his support for Tesla being able to expand their production from 500,000 to 1 million vehicles. I'm not surprised that the prime minister of that area is enthusiastic about Tesla being able to grow, because of course that's part of the tax base, that's part of the employment picture in that region. And it's a plus for a politician to be able to show that things are getting better in your region at any time, let alone to have a factory that is now doubling its capacity. And of course, we'll be having new hires, most likely to fill some of the new spots in your region. And of course, that propels all the secondhand jobs, the people that supply the factory, the people that have restaurants in the area, all that stuff is secondary, is going to be a big win for the area as it continues to grow in its production. And of course, we talked a little bit about the two-story tree forts. They were asked to leave their residence at one point because a World War II bomb had been found in the one of the forest areas that Tesla was surveying for the expansion, and it was going to have to be detonated over the weekend, and so everyone had to get out to a safe distance. So they could explode it. If it was going to have any extra power at all, they didn't want anyone within a certain blast radius. So that actually happened on the weekend, and that bomb has been disarmed. Next, Casey, did you check this out on the Tesla app? There was a new addition to it.
So on your Charge My Non-Tesla app, you can now do some of the same filtering that you can do on the on-screen planner for the Tesla superchargers, where you can filter between and just like they did on the Teslas, you can no longer filter out V2 superchargers very easily, which is kind of annoying. Your car can handle V3s just fine. It has a category of 0 to 70 kilowatts, which is going to be basically destination chargers and the destination chargers and destination superchargers. And it's also going to be 71 to 250, which is going to be your V2s and V3s. And you can now find them very easily in the app, which is nice. You give you the same availability, pricing, without having to go somewhere else or find it when you get there.
Yeah, so that again is the app being updated, the one that you have on your phone.
Go get some clothes, babe.
Casey went dark.
He's gonna be a streaker.
So the with that modification, it's interesting, Casey, that you mentioned about the V2s not being able to be filtered out anymore, because that was available to be done a little while ago, right?
Right.
I wonder if that's Tesla trying to not Osborne their supercharger network for people to say, we just want to see V3s. That's all we want to see, and
V3s,
create
V4s.
bigger lineups at V3s as opposed to spreading it out amongst some other superchargers.
But it's also a bit of an oversight because the non-Teslas can't use the V2s at all unless they plan to do something with the software on those guys. Because as of today, only the V3s can speak the right protocol.
So really, that's going to mean that there could be a lesser amount of vehicles at a V2 over a V3, depending on the load that's happening on a certain route.
I want to.
Pick one, please. She's a sticker for doing something good, but she's changing it as I go to feel them.
What do you think about that, Patrick? Is that something that could possibly adjust people's thinking?
So, well, I know right now that there's not a whole lot of the charging network that's available to non-Teslas, right? They have a pretty limited amount. The V4s that have the Magic Dock, that certainly helps. But that was one thing that they also mentioned in the earnings call, is that they're still expanding the supercharger network, and they expect that to be an increasing future revenue source for them, especially if they're charging non-Teslas. That's it's only good opportunity for them. If a friend of mine was just saying, I want an EV, and I said, well, either buy a Tesla or wait until they all have NACS. The one you want at least has NACS, right? Because I wouldn't buy anything else. And sure, there's adapters and other things, but do you want to deal with that for years? No, you just want to plug and go. So
right, I've had thousands of sessions over 6 years, and more than that if you count all of my sessions. And if I had to have an adapter on all of them, it would have been quite annoying. Not impossible, but it would have been quite annoying.
And of course, I got to believe that Patrick's adapter box has got to be like a 4x8 in his garage, taking up a third of the room with his career in EVs.
I do have a backpack full of them.
I need to do something about that Chatham adapter. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, you should sell it. And we have a Chevy Spark EV here as well, and so we have to have an adapter that we take and put on and take off when we're moving it between the Tesla and the Spark. And because they wanted it rain tight, it's really a tight fit, and it's hard to jam in there. And it's even harder to get out. So and a couple times the Spark didn't charge because it wasn't seated all the way in. Oh, wow. And so my wife's like, here, you shove this in. So give it a little more muscle than I can. And so it's if you don't have to deal with that, life's a whole lot easier, and nobody wants hassles.
Right. And speaking of adapters, if you have not yet got your free adapter from Ford for your Lightning or Mustang Mach-E, hurry up and do so. They've extended the timeline for you to do so. And I'm guessing that after that, it's not going to be free anymore. And this is not a cheap.
Yeah, it's going to be $250 US going
minimum.
Forward.
Oh, wow.
If you don't.
Yeah. That's what Tesla charges. So Ford might have an upcharge on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
$299 or something. Yeah, go now.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. We'll have to see. Of course, the Tesla app is ever evolving. They're adding things back and forth. I don't think that's going to end, especially with other EVs coming on to the platform. There's more things that they're going to want to share with other EV owners to show them what the Tesla network can offer fully. So I think that this is just the start. Speaking of upgrades and changes, Tesla also is rolling out a change for an air quality monitor. That's coming in a new update. And actually, I believe I can share
It should
a
have been
photo
out
of
when they
that.
put the HEPA filter in something other than the Model X. But I'm glad it's finally here. It'll be like it was always there, because that's the beauty of these over-the-air updates.
So here's a shot
Awesome.
of a screen that's showing it in a Cybertruck, and this is the AQI designation, air quality index of 79. I think, okay, I could be wrong here, but I'm going to go with conventional wisdom and say that the higher the score, the worse, I'm guessing. So yeah. That's a plus. We've got something new that's being added to the display suite of the car to let people know what the air quality is on the outside of the vehicle. And of course, you're driving around in town, that's not a big deal because of course you're used to it. But if you've been on a long trip and a couple of superchargers away, you may have driven into a poor quality air area, not even knowing so. And having it alert you that the air quality is a lot different than it is at home certainly could be valuable.
I'm curious if any of the legacy cars will get this display, and if they get it, if that means they'll fix the ability to see the temperature and air quality while you're in FSD, because on the non-legacy cars, talking Model X here, on the non-legacy Model X, you can still see the temperature even when you're in FSD.
I have a feeling that they would not want to show the air quality index because
air quality. Give us $50,000.
And the upgrade package is called a new car. We will retrofit your old car by selling it to somebody else.
We learned this trick from Chevy.
I looked it up, Mark, and the lower is better air quality, and 0 to 50 is good. 50 to 100 is moderate, and I hope the color changes there. So if the
yellow is not a good score right there.
Right, yeah. So yellow is in the moderate range, and below 50 would be green, at least on the chart that I found with a quick Google, and it goes all the way up to 500.
Ooh. I'm wondering if it would be green or white, because white is a non-issue on the Tesla UI.
Oh yeah, that could be, yeah. Where anything above 300 is hazardous, anything above 200 is unhealthy. Actually, above 150 is unhealthy, and above 200 is very unhealthy. So yeah, this
300 is painful, right?
It would be nice if this just automatically tied into the biohazard filter, and if it gets above 100, it just comes on automatically. That could be a setting.
That is a feature request.
Yeah. Only if I get the AQI in my car.
Well, yours is only mid-legacy. It's not full legacy.
Right. I bought it less than a year ago. I hope I still get this.
But what about those people who bought their car like 3 months ago, and now they are finally starting to actually use the hardware for, and this is like your first update that's like, your car's 4 months old and it doesn't get jacked.
You should be happy, Casey, that you bought the car at the price you expected, could afford, and enjoyed the last 3 months of ownership.
Yes.
Right. And if you expect Tesla to stop innovating just because you bought one, you're wrong.
Yeah, although, man, I still feel bad for those people. They kept finding those Model S's and X's out of nowhere when they weren't being built. Here, we got your Model X. Here you go. And then all of a sudden your car is, it's 3 days old and it's full legacy. They don't support nothing.
Another piece of information that we didn't have in the notes for today's show, but they're also playing with the ambient light feature. That when you're doing certain things, the ambient lights will come on. For example, if you go into service mode in the Cybertruck, the ambient light all turns to red to match the red that's around the service mode screen. So there is some cool things that they're doing with the new lighting system that's been rolled into the car. Also, now they're able to control the brightness. Before it was one set brightness, but now the user can determine if they want 25%, 50%, 100%, whatever they want. So
or it'd be sensor based.
Yeah, based on what's happening on the outside of the vehicle, where the light's actually shining to would be the next logical step, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, and can you change that with the when it does the little song and light show?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Could the interior lights also go with that? That'd be
Absolutely.
cool.
Or
Especially the ones that can open and close their own
keep
doors.
beat to the music that's playing on the stereo.
Yeah.
So all that stuff is coming, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about Canada. Don't know why, but
I know why.
Because hockey days here.
Exactly. Because what's happened recently is that there was talk about Cybertruck Foundation Series coming to Canada. Tesla is still aiming on having that happen before the end of this year. But what I saw on through our feed on X, of course, is at the Tesla Life, if you'd like to follow us there through the week, is that there are a few Canadians that are indicating that they've got their notification to configure their Cybertruck Foundation. So
cool.
there are a few now that are sharing their configuration screens, blotting out the reference number, but showing that yes, indeed, a few of them have received it, and there's a few more today as well. So it looks like we may be getting closer.
So the holdup in Canada, or at least the final, or one of the final holdups, was there's a regulation that says that the steering wheel has to turn more than 270 degrees. The Cybertruck doesn't do that because it doesn't need to. And they've got themselves a waiver that was granted on July 18th, and it's good through July 18th of 2029. It comes with some strings attached. They have, in order to bypass Section 7.9.4 of Technical Standards Document Number 126, which governs electronic stability control for light vehicles. It's not a medium vehicle over there. Anyway,
it's not a light vehicle, that's for sure.
That's right. The Tesla is required to provide semi-annual incident reports detailing any malfunctions or failures in the steering system, both hardware and software, and the corrective measures taken. The first report is due on January 18th of 2025. Tesla must notify Transport Canada immediately of any over-the-air updates to the electronic stability control system or the steering system's steering angle that impact the ESC systems. So like when we got the update that made it so the rear wheels could turn more, that would have been a variance that Tesla would have had to do all the paperwork for in order to get that done in Canada. I wonder if they would run that through like the steering angle on autopilot in Europe and allow the US to still get what we want. Additionally, we talked about the over-the-air. Yep. And those are the strings. And that might not be all, but it sounds like whatever else is left, if there is more, is just run-of-the-mill paperwork.
Right. Yeah, so if there are over-the-air updates for steering changes, those might be delayed in Canada until they get the paperwork done.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look it over and give it the rubber stamp. Yeah.
Yep. Steering and the stability control. It's probably anti-lock brakes too, because that affects both of those systems.
Mm-hmm.
So there is hope that we'll be seeing some native Cybertrucks here in Canada in short order, because we've seen a number of them from U.S. visitors coming up and driving around through the provinces. Teslatino drove almost the full length of Canada recently, right from Halifax, Nova Scotia, all the way over to Western Canada. So a lot of people got to see him on his drive on the Trans-Canada Highway. So that was a treat for some, for sure. But hopefully we'll be able to see some more shortly that are owned here.
Right, one of my neighbors has one, so I've been seeing them driving around in real life. Yeah.
And do you often wonder, how do I press reset on this video game?
Is this real life? Oh, I'm in the simulation. Oh, okay. Take the VR headset off.
Carry the water. These are not my beautiful wife. There's one more bit of Cybertruck news here, in that the referral programs is still basically dead, but if you have some points left over and you have 30,000 of them, you may use them to jump the line in the Cybertruck queue if you haven't already been invited to do so.
I don't have the app here. I thought the points all expired on the 21st.
Well, then...
but I'd have to look. I could be
wrong.
Then
you're out of luck by 3 days.
Right? They came back only to be expired.
And who is sitting on 30,000 points and not doing anything with them?
Beer.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying to spend my last 1,000 to get a T-shirt, but they were out of stock in my size. So
Get one for
They
somebody
just-
else and do a T-shirt swap.
that's what I should have done. Yeah. Yeah. Oh well.
Oh man. Yeah, so that's the news for the week, guys. Quite a bit happened as per usual, but of course with the earnings call, it even made it more exciting. So it's something that we'll see throughout the week. If you want to follow us on X through the week and on our Twitter feed, certainly you can follow us at the Tesla Life on X and the Tesla Life #1 on the Facebook feed. We thank Patrick, of course, for running the Facebook feed, and we thank Casey for these live performances that we put on every week on the show here on YouTube. So thank you so much to the both of you. And with that, how about some shout outs? Casey, anything from you?
So on Friday, join us for the Tesla Life Express first edition. Then on Sunday, join me over at youtube.com at Casey Green for Let's Chat with Casey and Friends. Last week we had a special guest of Brian of Future Aza, and who knows when and who we might have next. And on Monday, come back here for the second edition of Tesla Life Express, same time, same place. And then we'll catch you back again next week for the Tesla Life live show.
Absolutely. Patrick, any shout outs from you?
As always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, and we have an event going on Saturday.
Oh.
If you would like to join us, it's an all EVs event. So we're going to have a group drive to the Hood River Taqueria and visit the Western Antique Aeroplane and Automobile Museum. So check it out, and you can have some nice tacos for breakfast or lunch and hang out with some EV friends. And then, as always, I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. You heard me mention that my Model Y is almost a year old. So I'll be doing my 1-year review, and I've been logging the battery degradation since the day I got it, and ever since owning a Leaf, that's been I want to track that. And spoiler alert: Tesla's doing way better than Nissan did.
Just suggest that.
Spoiler alert! Oh my gosh! I hope you put that up on a chart. Model Y Leaf. Just show it for the first year. That would be cool to see.
Compare the first year of each, and I'll do that. And
would have thought that having a cooling system and a heating system would have been great for your battery.
Exactly, thermally managing batteries makes a difference. Wow.
Well, Nissan did figure out the heat, or at least they claimed they did. Somebody said I was wrong when I suggested that because they advertised they added a heater sometime later in the run before they changed the skin, and they suggested that was not actually the case for the battery packs. That is crafty marketing.
Yeah. I was very disappointed with the Leaf's lifespan, short lifespan. It was oh well, too bad. Those days are gone. And
gone from Europe this year, but it gets one more year in North America if you need one.
But they have the Aria instead. I don't know why anybody would buy. If you buy, I guess there's always a market, and if a short runabout, if some of the Leaves aged better than others. And it wasn't just necessarily by model year either. It was sometimes two cars that come off the line the same year. One will do great and the other one wouldn't. And I guess I had one of them in that second group, which was too bad for me. But lastly, my future free from fossil fuels. Check that out on X. Thank you.
Very good. Well, we will get together again shortly. I want to thank Lee Moon for the music we use every week. And we will see you back for the Tesla Express coming up soon. So with that, have yourself a great evening.
Stay positive. Test negative.